Little Red Riding Hood. In a quiet village near the deep green forest, there lived a little girl called Little Red Riding Hood. She was gentle and kind to everyone she met, and her red cloak made her easy to spot from far away. She loved walking through the forest paths, watching sunlight dance between tall trees, listening to soft wind move the leaves, and feeling happy in the peaceful morning air. One day her mother called her inside the cottage and placed a small basket in her hands. The basket was filled with fresh bread and sweet jam, meant for her grandmother, who lived beyond the forest. Her mother spoke carefully and softly, telling her to stay on the main forest path and not to speak with strangers along the way, because the woods could sometimes be dangerous. Little Red promised she would be careful and wrapped her red cloak around her shoulders. She stepped outside into the warm sunlight, ready to begin her journey through the forest. The trees stood tall like silent guardians, their shadows stretching across the path. Birds flew gently above her head, and everything seemed calm and safe. As she walked deeper into the forest, the sunlight slowly became softer and dimmer. The air felt cooler beneath the branches, and the path became more quiet and still. Suddenly, a large gray wolf appeared ahead. His voice sounded smooth and polite. He greeted her kindly as if he were friendly, and asked where she was going alone. Little Red answered without fear, telling him about her grandmother's cottage. She explained about the basket of food and the path that led beyond the trees. The wolf listened carefully and smiled, his mind quietly forming a clever plan. He suggested she pick some flowers nearby, while he secretly chose a faster path. Little Red saw bright flowers beside the path, and thought they would make her grandmother smile. She stepped off the main road to gather them, not knowing the wolf had already run ahead. The wolf raced quickly through the forest, his paws silent against the earth. The trees blurred as he moved fast, and soon he reached the cottage first. He knocked gently on the wooden door and imitated a small girl's voice. Grandmother opened the door slowly, not realizing the danger before her. The wolf stepped inside the cottage and locked the door behind him. The small room suddenly felt darker as clouds covered the afternoon sun. Soon the cottage became quiet and still, and the wolf put on grandmother's shawl. He lay down in the bed carefully, waiting for Little Red to arrive. Meanwhile, Little Red continued gathering flowers, humming softly to herself. The forest felt peaceful around her, and she did not feel afraid at all. When she returned to the main path, she noticed the forest seemed unusually silent. Even the birds were no longer singing, and a strange feeling filled the air. She reached her grandmother's cottage door and knocked gently with her small hand. A voice from inside told her to enter, though it sounded slightly different. She stepped into the cottage slowly and walked toward the bed near the window. The room felt dim and cooler than before, as shadows filled the corners. She looked closely at the figure in bed, and noticed the ears looked very large. She spoke softly with curiosity, asking why they seemed so different. The wolf answered in a deep voice, saying the ears were to hear her better. Little Red stepped a little closer, still trying to understand what she saw. She then noticed the large bright eyes, and asked about them with surprise. The wolf replied they were to see her clearly, while staying still beneath the blanket. Next she looked at the long sharp teeth, and her heart began to beat faster. She asked about them with a small voice, and the wolf suddenly sat up quickly. The wolf revealed himself fully, throwing aside the blanket at once. The room felt dark and tense, as danger filled the air. Little Red stepped back in fear, her basket falling to the floor. The wooden door remained closed tightly, and she felt very small inside the room. Just at that moment, A strong knock echoed outside the cottage. Heavy footsteps approached the door, bringing a sudden hope with them. The woodcutter pushed the door open, sunlight bursting into the dark room. He saw the wolf standing near the bed, and raised his axe bravely. The wolf growled loudly, and lunged across the wooden floor. The cottage shook with movement, as shadows danced along the walls. The woodcutter stood firm and strong, blocking the wolf's path. The struggle lasted only moments, but felt like a long storm. Soon the wolf was defeated, and the room became quiet again. The sunlight slowly filled every corner, pushing away the darkness. Grandmother was safe once more. Wrapped gently in her warm shawl, Little Red ran to her side, relieved beyond words. The woodcutter smiled kindly, resting his axe against the wall. The cottage now felt bright and warm, like morning after a storm. They fixed the room together, placing the basket back on the table, and opening the windows wide, letting fresh air inside. Grandmother thanked the brave woodcutter with calm and grateful words. Little Red listened carefully, understanding the lesson deeply. The forest outside grew quiet again. The danger had finally passed. Sunlight touched the cottage gently, and peace returned to the small home. Little Red held her grandmother's hand, feeling warmth and safety beside her. The room felt brighter than before, as if kindness had filled the air. The woodcutter prepared to leave, stepping back into the forest path. He turned once to look at them, before disappearing between the trees. Evening slowly arrived in the sky, painting the forest with soft colors. Little Red decided it was time to return home before night. Grandmother walked her to the door and gave her a gentle goodbye. The cottage windows glowed warmly against the darkening woods. Little Red stepped onto the path, holding her empty basket carefully. The forest felt calm once more. As moonlight began to rise, the trees whispered softly above her, but no danger followed her steps. She walked with quiet confidence, remembering her mother's advice. In the distance, the village lights appeared, small golden stars against the night. Her red cloak shimmered in moonlight, guiding her safely forward. She crossed the wooden bridge gently, watching water reflect the sky. Fireflies flickered around her path, like tiny floating lanterns. The forest slowly thinned behind her, and open fields welcomed her return. The cool night air felt peaceful and full of quiet comfort. She reached the village gate safely, and saw her home waiting warmly. Soft candlelight shone through the window, like a loving signal. She opened the cottage door quietly, and placed the basket on the table. Her mother looked relieved to see her, and listened to her story carefully. Little Red explained everything slowly, about the wolf and the warning, about the woodcutter's bravery, and about staying on the safe path. Her mother hugged her gently, grateful that she had returned safely. The small cottage felt peaceful, filled with warmth and light. That night she stood by the window, looking toward the distant forest. The moon shone calmly above the trees, and everything felt quiet again. She understood the lesson clearly, to listen carefully to wise advice, and to be cautious with strangers, no matter how kind they seem. Morning light slowly arrived, painting the sky with soft gold. The village woke gently from sleep, ready for a new day. Little Red stepped outside her home, feeling braver than before, her red cloak shining brightly in the fresh morning sun. The forest stood quietly in the distance, no longer frightening or dark, but simply part of the world, waiting peacefully under the sky. She smiled softly at the sunrise, grateful for safety and family, for courage and kindness, and for the lesson she had learned. And from that day forward, Little Red walked wisely and carefully, her bright red cloak glowing in sunlight, as her story became a tale of courage,